Where's your campaign going?
9 o'clock. Google says 9.
All right.
I know it's she's going to do it. Can't be on because I've already been on there so many years. I need to go through firefighter one.
Make a motion, we approve the agenda.
It is. Yes, I did.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right. Approval of the minutes that are in the package.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
No comments. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Public comment. You see, we got one supervisor. Mr. Luke, you have anything to say?
No.
Okay.
They're rare, but no.
All right. Let's start with Mo then. Do this right away.
Good morning, everyone. Just a quick update on Parks and Trails, what we're working on. We are working on the reservation system for the Apple River Park campground. So they can do online reservations versus a first come, first served. We're hoping this will help with some of the issues we've had with people squatting in there and not paying. So working on that. February 4th, this Saturday is the candlelight walk on the Stour Trail. I've been working with the Snowmobile Club and want to thank them. We'll have the trail closed from 2 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. So they can have their event down there. It's been going well on that. Looking this year, it looks like we're going to have 2 interns for parks as seasonals, one from Mankato State and hopefully one from Vermilion to help us out with parks and get their credits for their degree in parks. Also, March 1st at 10 a.m. we meet with the Friends of the Gandy on maintenance to go over the maintenance on the Gandy Dancer Trail and let them know what we're doing. We've been working with Burnett County on their schedule on maintenance and spraying and brushing, and we have our schedule set now so that when we're gonna spray the trails and on the rail beds on there. Mike Ninke is going to go to school, take a class now, and he'll be a certified playground inspector. So we'll be inspecting our playgrounds and have that documented so that if something happens, we have a certified inspector on site. Some of the newer projects we're working on, starting to get going on is adding riprap at the Long Trade Lake boat landing. We have some benches to reinstall at DD Kennedy that got damaged. We're planting more shrubbery on the berms down at Woodley. We continue brushing at the Sterling Campground. We have the DD Kennedy trail repairs that we're working on. We open up bids on the bridge replacement this afternoon at 3:15. So I'll know an engineering number on that one. So that'll be completed this year. Hopefully by fall, we'll have a new bridge there. Still working on the maps for the kiosks. Removing of the dock at Mackey is on the list. Hoping to get that one done. We're installing solar lights that have been ordered for the Wanderoos parking lot. And once we have those in place, we'll look at moving the same ones to the Woodley parking lot. We're also working on the DD Kennedy Park entranceway, adding a brick retaining wall and some flower planting area. So as you come into it, it's more defined and looks a little bit better on that. So that's some of the things we're working on. We opened up the skid steer bids for parks for the Fecon head and that. We got quite a few quotes on that one. We did settle on one of the Bobcat, but we're waiting for DOA to approve that purchase. And we should have that within 90 days. That's kind of what's happening in parks right now.
Any questions? Go ahead.
So we thought about just removing the playground equipment so we wouldn't have to send that guy to the schooling. I'm just trying to save the county some schooling money.
This is for Carl's benefit. We want him to be safe for Carl.
It's an online class, so it's de minimis.
It's time.
Oh, no, oh, no, it's for Carl. We'll get our money back.
Is there any, how about the signage at the Evergreen? Is there any on highway?
There is not on Highway 8 yet. I'm working with Wisdom on that.
Okay.
That brings another point. I got to work with the Snowmobile Council on some of our maps online that were created by the Snowmobile Council have to be updated to show the new parking lots at Wanderoos, Woodley, and then the Stour. That's open to sleds.
I got a real question this time. So
Can we address those, Jason, too, so that they're on the 911 system?
Yes, we have.
Okay. Yeah.
So did the skid steer and stuff come in under whatever it was budgeted at?
Yes, it did.
Okay.
Right now.
Like quite a bit, actually. Came in good. These are right around 140 range.
Oh, so it was quite a bit under.
Yeah, we got some good bids. We have competitive bids all the way from, we had one bid from Florida, Case, John Deere, Bobcat, Caterpillar. So we got some really good bids.
At least you bought the good one.
All right, any other questions?
All right, thanks.
Thank you. You have the
Right, BNC. Well, good morning. I guess I'll start with reporting on the Gandy feasibility study. I placed in your packet 2 position statements. One from the Ice Age Trail Alliance and one from the Woolly Bike Club. I'm encouraging stakeholder groups to provide these position statements and encouraging them to be qualitative in terms of their messaging. That provides value to us and the consultant. Along that line, we did, if you recall, SRF, our consultants presented at the last meeting. Thereafter, we met with 3 stakeholder groups, ATV snowmobile group, equestrians, as well as bikers and walkers. Subsequent to that, in fact, on January 26th, we had a meeting with the DNR and explained to them our process. And a product of that meeting is the DNR has facilitated another meeting to include us, meaning me, the consultants, Ice Age Trail Alliance, and the National Park Service. So that meeting's scheduled for February 8th. The next step in the process is we'll start interfacing with municipalities in which the trail intersects. So that's the update for that project. The other one would be the ATV UTV intensive park. SEH is our consultant with that project. They were to provide 90% design at the beginning of the year. Staff, including Mo, Rod, Mike, and I, and Brent, sat down with their design. There was a lot of shortcomings. I don't want to get into a lot of detail, but there's a lot of work to be done to get it to 90%. Their goal is to have it completed by the next ESC meeting. And I thought it'd be a good idea once we do receive that 90% design, I'll send them to each of you. Their timeline, and this is a little ambitious, but we're hoping that they will present, that's part of their deliverables and their scope of work, one public presentation to the full county board on March 21st. So that's our goal. A lot of the work's going to be done in-house by Mo's crew. And so potentially that project could start as early as this fall. And I think I've been saying next spring, but it sounds like Rod and the Parks Department have the capacity to at least start grubbing this fall. Let's see. That's about it in terms of planning projects within the comprehensive trail network plan. Any questions? Yeah, either Mo and I will deliver the 90%, or we'll just talk about some of the modifications we've made. So Mo and I will get together and we'll deliver that probably. But in the event we get that before the next meeting, which is February 15th, we'll send those design plans to you all. Also, Sally isn't here today, so I'm going to deliver her annual report. This is also included in your packet. The initiative to continue to e-record and back index all their documents, their vital records, continues. A couple things to note with their recording statistics. The documents recording is trending down, and that could be placed upon a lot of different reasons, whether it's high interest rates, pandemic real estate surge. So that's, we've seen that with the housing market sort of slowing down and flattening out. However, if you look at the transfer fee statistics, the revenue is tracking relatively high, although the documents that were recorded is down. So what does that tell you? It's really based upon the transfer fee. It's $3 per $1,000 of valuation. So basically what we're seeing is a lot of big home sales, and those selling prices are still pretty high. So the fee revenue hasn't been as impacted as much. I mean, you go back just to 2020 and we're up, what, 150, 160,000. So
that's what we're kind of get 50% again.
Correct. That resolution 04. Yep. Resolution 0423. Right. That lobbying effort that the county board passed, that resolution 0423 was to increase that 80-20 to 50%. Yep, of real estate transfer fee revenue. Yep. And then those miscellaneous fee revenue statistics, those are dollars from users who are online accessing and paying those copying fees. So notice that the vital record statistics are a little down too. Those are marriages, birth certificates. Wow. So I thought I'd present and deliver Sally's report. This is all part of our work plan. Jason, later on the agenda, will be delivering the zoning annual report, and then land and water will be delivering theirs at the next meeting on February 15th.
So for Sally's then, excuse me, what's the total FTEs in that? We have that. Is it a 4?
It's 4 FTEs, but they're all at 75 hours per pay period. And then, well, it's 3 FTEs, and then Sally is an elected. So, yeah.
Getting more of this, what would that cover? Budget for that, we got half.
They're cash flowing, so they're in the black. I don't really want to speak for Sally on that. No. I do have an update on the Zebra Mussel Forum. If we want to fall still under the environmental services update, Chairman O'Connell?
Yes.
Okay. As of this morning, if you all recall, that's also in your packet. That's scheduled for tomorrow, an all-day forum on zebra mussels, mitigation, prevention, best practices. As of this morning, we have 108 folks registered, which is pretty good. 55% of those registered are residents, and 45% are specialists from government agencies, municipalities, DNR, etc. It's not too late to register. In fact, Kim registered this morning. If you need assistance, just let me know.
Any other questions? Okay, with that.
Thank you.
14 minutes.
No problem. 14 minutes, that's it?
There's no questions.
Well, we had just noticed this morning an issue when the maps got converted to the packet. I think they got deleted on there, so I got a new packet update for you.
Oh.
Maps got. Yeah.
Oh, there. That's supposed to be.
Yeah, so they
The numbers stay the same.
oh, the second stuff's good. This is missing maps.
Okay.
And,
Yeah.
miss anybody? Good.
Can I get a copy?
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess we'll start with the timber sales since I just gave you that one. So just kind of an update. All the sales are established and put into our inventory system with the state. Got 4 timber sales we're going to have out to bid. We're looking at an April 4th bid opening for these sales, and then the approval of the bid would be with you guys on April 5th on the committee meeting. Looking to advertise March 1st, so about a month ahead, or just over a month. That's the plan anyway. That we had a lot of snow this year, so if the snow is really bad and the purchasers can't get to the sales very easily, could be a chance we'd move it back a couple of weeks. But tentatively, that's our kind of our plan for where we're gonna when we're gonna do it. So in the vicinity map, if you kind of start there, we got 3 timber sales that are going to be in Sterling Township. That's on the front page. So we got Turkey Trot, DC Red Pine, 340th year edge sale. And then the other timber sale is Roundabout, which is over in Lorain Township, which is a pretty good size hardwood thinning. A little bit clear cut, 172 acres there. And then, yeah, and then the individual, I'm not sure if anybody looked through any of the timber sales, not going to go into detail unless you guys had individual questions on them, but we're looking at about $95,000 in appraised value. I do expect them to overbid, hopefully by 20, 30, 40%. Pulp prices have come up recently. Some of our appraisal prices on pulp are lower than what stuff's been going for. Solid prices aren't too great right now, but I think our appraisals are kind of under that threshold anyway. So we should see an uptick on our bid prices. It's kind of the update on the timber sale side of things. You guys have any questions on individual ones or?
On the first one, on the
340th. Yep.
The cutting requirements.
Yep.
On that first line, it says leave the other trees. What's that?
Those are essentially they're just bat dead trees, aren't they?
Yeah.
The hibernacula.
If the logger identifies it as a den tree would be a hollow tree, a tree with a hole in it, you know, squirrel size, coon size, hollow butt. Just for habitat
Birding
diversity
habitat,
reasons,
yeah.
we tend to try to leave those. Yeah, but not bear dens, trees.
No.
I've never seen that.
But yeah, bear den would be a bigger issue. Yeah, just small little birds. Bats sometimes, you know, whatever, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, so not too big of sales or high value. We have one that's gonna be a red pine, DC red pine is gonna be red pine. That 340th deer edge, that's, you know, jack pine, scrub oak, turkey trot, pretty big oak job, scrub oak job. And then roundabouts, got the one over in Lorraine, the for sale, got a lot of nice hardwoods, a lot of red oak, and we have a couple sales that were active this fall or right now in that area. The purchasers are really happy with the quality of the wood over there. A lot of veneer oak coming off of there right now. This sale will have the same. So I think with those two big mills, I can see them fighting for that one, just because they're seeing the good quality coming out of that area right now.
That one didn't get hit by the storm as bad as the southern.
No, not at all. Nope. Yeah, this will be, nope, pretty good. Yeah, there's some clear cuts mixed in between it. That's just low quality, kind of lowland. You know, it's restart for some of the timber there, but most of it's just a northern hardwoods thinning. So, yeah.
What else? Question.
A lot of oak coming off that.
The bid you said was April 4th.
That's tentatively we're going to do bid April 4th, and then we'd come to you with kind of the bid approvals, and I believe a motion to approve the bids. Yep.
Okay.
And we'll see. Hopefully the snow comes off during March. We're going to see what it looks like around March 1st for the snow. And we could end up pushing it back a couple weeks if it's not coming off, so people can walk out there. Yeah. So, yeah, should be some good sales. I think access is good for everything, and not too many logistical challenges. There's only one sales, got a couple private landowners adjacent, the one in Lorraine. Otherwise, pretty much good. Yeah, I think we have a little bit of private land on the deer edge sale, not just a short stint. So yeah, pretty. Other questions on the timber sales? Good. We can go over into the severance payments this year. So severance payment in packet. So this is all timber that was harvested last year at 30% of the stumpage receipts from last year's cut. So state statute is 10%, which I believe you guys are aware of, that we have to pay the towns. This is 30%. And then 30% is distributed based on the percent of acres or land that the township holds on the county forest, if that makes sense. So township, Sterling's got almost 60% of the land holding. They get 60% of that 30%, if that makes sense. Yeah, and I know Bob mentioned you might want to talk about the severance stuff, or you guys just wanted to see the numbers and just, okay.
That's the excess in our budget, 465.55. How else am I gonna get paid?
Well, we just gotta keep searching to buy land in Clam Falls then. Yeah, so you can see obviously a little uptick from the last 3 years. We had a pretty good fall. Some big sales went active in August, September, October. Scaling out pretty good too, so got some good value coming in. I think we hit 150,000 in revenue on the county side, and then plus the 60%, or plus the 60,000, so about 210, 215 total stumpage on the forest. So pretty good year. Yeah. So, yeah. Any other questions on that? Concerns?
Making enough to pay the wage.
Made that and then some this year. Yeah, we had a pretty good positive revenue. Yeah. So we'll see what this year looks like. Hopefully the same, but I think March. I got the annual report I got to do from last year, and then yeah, so I'll do that. Yeah, the annual report, and then probably the update of the comprehensive plan with the change in the ATV ordinance. So I'll have to update that. I'm hoping to do that at the same time.
Same time, all right.
Yep.
Try to get that done.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Good. Thank you.
Bob, you have that written down, I hope.
Yes, sir. Have it down.
We are pretty good. Well, I can just go over this handout that I provided. So I just received this yesterday. The governor approved the statement of scope for the rewrite of ATCP 72, which is the health code that regards lodging and tourist rooming houses. So this, you'll see that especially points A, B, C, and D, and then I and J and K are all directly related to tourist rooming houses. And then there's also five policies and that are going to be related to tourist rooming houses. So my understanding of this, and I'm not very familiar with this whole process of an administrative code rewrite, but the governor has approved it now. DATCAP is going to be meeting tomorrow, and that their committee, similar to our committee here, to take and talk about the process going forward. And then there'll be a committee, and that like an ad hoc committee created to work on this. And from my understanding is that I will be on that committee to take and relay information. So I'll just try to keep updates on it. But I just thought I'd share it. So it seems very relevant. So kind of follows up with those talking points and that we had at the last meeting. I did get feedback. Price County is on board and that, and as well as Sawyer County as well. And I know Forest County is just getting bombarded. So all of our northern counties are on the same page here. So anyway, hopefully something successful can come out of it.
I can't see an argument breaking out there.
All right, so that's just a handout. Another thing that we can go over pretty quick in a couple minutes. Claire, could you pull up the town of Sterling zoning map? So the town of Sterling, and it's in your packet, passed their resolution in their January town board meeting to adopt county zoning. This has been going on for about the last year or a little bit better. We actually created this proposed zoning map in January of last year. I think we've been to the town board 3 times now, talking and helping them create their map and deciding on the pros and the cons of county zoning. And so anyway, at their meeting here, and that it was finally passed. So we do have to incorporate this map as part of our amendments. So we caught it in time. So it is being published with all the other ordinance amendments for public hearing on February 15th. Basically, we tried to create a map that would create the least amount of conflict for the town. And so you'll see pretty much all of the areas in blue here are like a violet. That is all zoned natural resources, and it kind of follows up with Brent's presentation just now. that's all county forest and state land and also town-owned land. So that's what that is. So the natural resources district fits that very well. The 2 ATV parks and that the county has, we've got those assigned recreational commercial, as well as the equestrian campground here. So those are the 2 yellows. There's also another little red box up there. I believe that's a kennel that they're operating. And then the only other main change is Cushing, basically from 240th Street going up to Bass Lake, would have a hamlet zoning on each side of Highway 87. So that would allow for commercial uses, residential uses, just kind of a nice mix. So, and I believe that that is set at 330 feet from center line going each way. So that is the map and that the town has agreed to that they want for their zoning, and we'll start there. So I just wanted to give you an update on that will be as part of our hearings as well.
So we hold a public hearing for that?
Well, and that because they're adopting and that, so really our ordinances are 2-part. We have our ordinance text and then we have our ordinance maps. So this is very similar to what we're going to be doing here in a couple of minutes with Glenn Meyer, and that for his rezone, because we have to hold the public hearing and run it through a resolution to change the zoning map. Same thing in that for the ordinance amendments. But here we're just doing it for a whole town. So anyway, when the town adopts county zoning like this, they're with the county and that for 10 years. And then after that, they can get out. They have to provide a 1-year notice and that to the county clerk. So it's a 10-year marriage. So
can they get out at any time after 10, or is that
anytime after 10? Yep. Yep. As long as they provide a 1-year notice.
If there's a full rewrite, they can get out also.
Yes, if there's a full rewrite and that they're also able to get out. Yep. 2016, they'd be able to get out.
So
yep.
They have 2 outs.
Yep. So I believe that they're going to try to advertise it during voting, in April, and then maybe do something in the newspaper too. Sounds like so.
So this will be the public hearing when?
February 15th. So, and then if you guys pass it at the public hearing, then it could go to the March County Board. And then tentatively right now, they're looking at like an April 1st effective date. So it gives it a couple of weeks after the county board even to get the word out. So, yep. But everything that's up there that's, been there, and that is non-conforming structures or non-conforming uses going forward. So it's only what changes between now and forever, or whenever they get off from zoning, and that now in the future that where we would have any control over. So, Okay.
All right, that sounds good. So the map, okay. So the map, because we didn't get that. That's what I was wondering.
Yeah, it's kind of big. I can do an 8.5 by 11. It just doesn't have a lot of specifics that you're able to see because it gets so shrunk. So,
okay.
The one that we provided the town with was like 42 by 42. So that's kind of what this is scaled out to be. So it's supposed to be like a big wall mounted one.
All right. Any other questions on that?
What date did you say it would go into effect then?
April 1st.
April 1st.
You guys would like a map for the public hearing, I can get like a 2 foot by 2 foot hard copy map if you'd like to see one. So that's not a problem.
Hopefully they have one too that they have put up.
They've got
them after the fact or whatever.
Yep.
I mean, if we're in a public hearing, it'd be nice to have it out.
Okay. I'll get a map.
So if I was a landowner in Sterling, could I determine what I was zoned?
Well, and that's what they were working on, and so the town of Sterling does not have a comprehensive plan. So I believe that they were trying to get public input, especially last year. I don't know how much they've gotten in that since fall. The last time Bob and I were there was either in September or October. And they were going to develop a comp plan at that time, but then they decided just to jump into zoning in January here. So we'll see.
So they could do an egg 5 or an egg 10, say if they're along 87 there or something. They could change it before this is official.
Correct.
Come into the town.
Correct. And that I believe.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's what you're asking.
That's what I'm asking is
yep.
That the town can't zone it something that maybe the land that the landowner don't want it to be. Maybe I wanted something, or I wanted something different than the town. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're gonna be okay. I mean, it's all RA5. I know one of the protections that the town wants is what the county went through with the whole CAFO stuff and the Ag 20 zoning classification. So that's another motivation behind this. And as you can see, there's no Ag 20 on their map. So then they'd have to at least start at the town level if they wanted any of those CAFO operations. So.
Sure.
Yep.
So I think the basic is that people know that they can change.
Yep, no, and that's my point.
Okay. That's what we had, I think, was St. Paul stuff.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, we don't expect there's gonna be a huge amount of workload change, in our office or anything by adding this town. And that there's usually not a lot of permits up in the town of Sterling. There's probably gonna be a few complaints and a few compliance cases. But generally the people up there are more acceptive of, junk cars and stuff anyway, and that, so. Anyway,
Hey.
the truth is on the wall, so.
Yes. Hey, let's get into our public.
That's why they haven't had zoning for 50 years, so anyway.
That's why they'll be out 10 years from April 1st.
All right, let's open this one up here. I don't think this one in, Jason.
Okay, recording's on. Glenn Meyer requests a rezone from agricultural 10 A1 to residential agricultural 5 RA5 for a parcel located at 1354 310th Avenue in section 33, town 37 north, range 17 west. It's in the town of West Sweden. The parcel number affected is 048-00772-0000. The lot or the parcel consists of a total of 29.86 acres. Yeah. Just on this request, before we get into it, we have not received any letters of opposition or support of the rezone request. The town has approved of the rezone request. In fact, the applicant is the town chair of the town of West Sweden. The property is located just west of the Frederick limits. So on the map here, that yellow-green line, that is the village limits. So it goes up here, hits 310th Avenue and then jogs kind of over. So it's kind of an irregular boundary, but the property is right here. There is a manufactured home on the property that was permitted in 2002. That's right up here in the right-hand corner. And it's got some old, I shouldn't say old, but it's got farm buildings there on there. You can see the access point is off from 310th. I believe what the property owner is wanting to do is create some lots out here in the field and that to be able to put homes on. So if you can zoom out a little bit clearer, this area is really highly developed. There's a lot of houses on the north side and of course going to the west because that's going within the village. So it does match the surrounding land use. And I believe that the southern portion of that larger field there, I believe is intended to remain agricultural production. So both of those uses would fit into the RA5 zoning classification. At 29.86 acres, they would be able to create a total of 6 lots out of that parcel. But anything more than 4 lots would require major subdivision. So they're able to do 4 lots with the minor, anything more than that would be major. And that the existing house there kind of shocked me, was served by public sewer. So there is no private sewer and there's no wetlands, floodplain or navigable waters on this site. And the county provided proper class 2 notice prior to this hearing and we did not receive any comments. So
if they put additional homes there, they would be on public water and sewer too?
Water.
Water only.
yeah.
along Ash Street and 310th is where it's at. There's water. I'm sorry.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure what they've got for utilities and stuff and that. I believe there's water on the north side, so, you know. But I think the other one is so close to the village that that's why it's got public sewer.
So is that existing property one of the four? So it would only be three more?
Correct. That's how it works. And that, so the remnant and that is considered to have a new meets and bounds description to legally describe it. So then that's considered a new lot. So, yep. So yeah, and I believe they're looking at creating one site around the existing buildings and then a couple other ones and that, and then the remnant. So, yep.
Any other questions? Now we can ask if you have anything.
Well, just that it has water.
My name is Glenn Meyer. This is my wife, Barbara Meyer. We're the owners of the property. We've owned the property for approximately 5 years. And what had happened is we had an individual that was a previous owner, and he had life rights estates as far as he passed away in November. So now we're looking at, and he maintained the 5 acres as far as with the buildings. There's 5 buildings on the property other than the mobile home. That's a dairy barn that when we bought it, we put a new steel all around it. You know, you're close to town, you want to have maintained the property in, you know, good condition and so forth. But along Ash Street, the reason why, to answer your question as far as why we're only putting in water there, because along Ash Street, there is only water, there is no sewer. On Ash Street, as far as they put the sewer in behind the houses on Ash Street. So we have no, and it would be very cost prohibitive for us to do it. We're proposing the 2 lots along Ash Street to be approximately 1.6 acres each, roughly 300 feet of frontage. And then we'd have access as far as from the we're proposing 5 acres with the buildings. And then there's a street as far as called Fifth Avenue. It would butt right up against 5th as far as going across right there. So we already have a field road culvert right there. So we would just extend that for having access to the 21 acres behind.
So that would be in their surveying and stuff. So that's when they get to that.
Yep, yeah, and we're
assuming you're 6 foot and all that stuff.
Yes, yep.
Okay.
So, but there would be 2 lots, and there's different possibilities with those 2 lots that we're proposing, either residential or maybe as far as township might be looking at a new town hall. So I'm not saying that it is. Nope, they said that would fit.
RA5 and that would be,
So that's the reason why I asked that question. I don't want to have to come back and pay you some more money. Brad's smiling over
Use
there.
this just so we get more.
But if you have any other questions as far as, but we're at the back piece as far as, and to the south as far as the property, it's the village of Frederick sewer and water system as far as it borders us in the back.
Okay.
This whole parcel that we owned in the village was all owned by the same owner. Lazy property. It's a like use as far as with what's in the neighborhood, you know, it's really residential right there.
Other questions? Do we have a letter from the town?
I did not have that. And I think you said it was what, their October meeting?
No, we approved it in our January meeting, our December meeting. Yeah, it's in the minutes.
It's in the minutes?
Yes, it's in the minutes of under West Sweden. It's archived.
Questions? Then there's quite a list of people too.
Nothing.
Another 4 again. else, does it get that comp and all that?
Correct, yeah. Yep.
All right. Well, we should be good because there's no one else here for it to speak to it. We should be good.
Yep. Staff recommendation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do the staff recommendation.
So since the town of West Sweden approved the rezone, it does align with the surrounding land use. And that there's definitely a lot of residential homes, so the density of the surrounding area is definitely much greater than even RA5. So it's not like we're increasing the number of lots that can be there in that area. It's not going to have an effect on the roads because they're all going to be accessed from town road. So that's fine, our village road. And it does align with our county comprehensive plan just because of the location to the village of Frederick. So it's very close. So even more going straight to an R1 would also align with that plan. So, yep. So with that, we would recommend approval of the full county board. So,
Would we for an exhibit just add them if we got the need?
Sure, I'll add that.
And then exhibit 1 would just be the map, exhibit 2 would be that.
Okay, yep.
It'll be in the file. Okay.
Motion to approve.
Comments or questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay, are we ready to go to B and that?
Let's jump to B.
Okay, so the Dale and Worry Smith rezone request in the town of Apple River was before you guys and then it went to the full county board for the January meeting. The day of the hearing that we had here was January 4th at the ES committee meeting. It was at 9 o'clock exactly. And that I had received an email and that from Carrie Bryan, the town chair. And I did not receive that email until after our meeting, after the public hearing that we held on the Smith rezone, because I was in here at that time. And but we followed up with Carrie and provided some options. And that was what took and was relayed back to Kim. Because in that email, and it's in your packet, and that the town expressed concern about the zoning violations that were already on the property because of that manufactured or mobile home that they were staying in besides the dwelling on site. And so there was concern about that. And so the town wanted to have another look at it. And I'm like, oh, I'm kind of feel bad because, you know, we already had the hearing and I didn't know that had come in. And so that's why Supervisor O'Connell and that removed it from the agenda, and the proper channel to do that then would be to send it back to the committee. That's why it's back on your agenda today, to basically look at it and reconsider whether or not you want to take and send it back to the full county board, or you can take and direct it back to the town of Apple River. And so the applicants are aware of it. We've also tried to offer some other options because if you remember, they own that 20-acre chunk to the south. They could simply build on that 20 acres to the south, or they could actually continue with their survey and connect that back 2.5 acres where they wanted to build with that 20 acres. And that to make that all one parcel, and that would still be compliant without going through the rezone approval. So I also talked to their surveyor about their options, and I have not heard anything since. But those are the two options that they can get around it. The bad thing is that I believe, you know, Dale owns the 20 acres and he wants to take and give or sell or whatever he's gonna do to his kids. And that's so that they can build their home there. So they end up sacrificing or losing that 20-acre piece and the ability to sell it is what is the end goal or the end result. So I guess it's up to you guys. And that, like I said, you can send it back to the county board. You guys could make a denial right here at the committee, I guess would be another option, or you can send it back to the town of Apple River for their input. So, which is, I believe, what the town chair is seeking. I did get that in writing from them on January 25th. So it would have been last Wednesday. And that they would like to take and have it back before their board so that they can work with the property owner on coming to an outcome. So.
All right, so my feeling was that we sent it back.
I think you're right.
Kind of wanted it back to go through stuff. Changing right now, he's going to anything. I didn't put it at the level.
We had some concerns when we first talked to them too. I mean, because that wasn't that mobile home unpermitted and.
It is unpermitted. And there was a total of 11 letters of objection that we had received in that for that hearing. If the town denies it now at the town level, of course, any legal liability in that then would be with them. But if they deny it, they can't even bring it back to you guys at the committee. So really you would be removed from it. It'd be up to the town. But if the town says, okay, you guys have done X, Y, and Z, now we're okay with the rezone and that, then they could do it and come back to the committee.
So would they have to pay the $750 again to come back?
No, still open. So
I still think I think the town had their opportunity in my mind. I think this sets sending it back, I think sets a bad precedent as far as, oh, we found out 11 people complained and now the town wants it back. I think it sets a bad precedent as somebody who sits on a town board. That was my job before it passed.
Did they get those complaints after the fact or?
right, and that's kind of the downfall, and that with the town, some towns I should say, and that is that they don't provide public notice. So it's not until they come to the county that we send out our class 2 notice, and that to the paper and to all the property owners within 300 feet. And at that point, that's when the bee's nest got opened up, if you will. Sure. And all the complaints came out, and then I believe the town officials were getting all the complaints as well. So,
so okay. Can we, on these other towns, can we do? I suppose we can't tell them to have a public hearing.
Towns are big boys, you know, and that I mean, they all. I mean, we have the WTA. I mean, they can definitely reach out. I will say that Carrie has not been town chair for very long, you know, and so this might be a learning curve in that for Carrie. So
everybody that walks in the like these people, I had quite a few calls that they never heard about.
I will give credit to.
It was a public hearing. There wasn't, just us. Yep. So I mean, it didn't seem like. But I think they asked for it back. Let's give it to them so that these people have these other options. To give up the violations. I mean, I see Brad's point too, but still, I think these towns have to have it. Right.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not against it going back. It's just I believe it sets a bad precedent. I mean, we
take all our options.
As a committee, we looked at it at the 11 letters of opposition and voted unanimously to approve it. Yeah. You know, because apparently we didn't think there was enough there to deny it. So whatever, but that's my feeling. I think it should have passed that night. I think it should go back to the county board, but there again, I'm not against sending it back to the town. It's a.
I think when we get some of these, we should find out if they had a public hearing.
Most of them,
Back in their face and tell them they have to have-
most of them don't.
This one that wasn't contested.
And that I will give the town of Apple River credit is at least in that some of our towns don't even send it to a planning commission, you know, and that the town board acts on it directly and that, but I do know that this one and that we do have the minutes here. And that from the planning commission where the planning commission did review it too and passed it on. So, but.
So the plan commission reviewed it, the town reviewed it, and we reviewed it.
Yeah, so I mean, it's
Just like this, they
even,
reviewed it without.
even there, it didn't,
Jason found that all out.
Yeah.
That's how it happened.
Yeah.
but I mean, it was more than just the town board. I don't know how big their plan commission is, but 3 or 5 members, whatever it.
Yeah.
Doug's
What do
got
you
one,
think,
Ken.
Doug?
Go ahead.
I just wanted a chance to agree with Brad because read through this when we, yeah.
I seen that jump too, Tracy. Finally, somebody agreed with me.
We went through all of the permit
We did.
issues and looked at the map and home sites. It just seems like I know how we're going to send it back to this. Agree with it at this point. I believe in the town having their say in things that are sent here, but they had that.
They had it, correct.
You know, it's just like.
And the other issues is something we can't do. There's no conditions on it. So
Yeah, but I mean, I just think the fact that the planning commission looked at it too, I think that's just one more reason to say you had your chance, you know, and there it was. It wasn't just 3 members on the town board. It was X amount of members on the plan commission. You know, no one raised a red flag anywhere along the way. So I'm fine with it either way.
Here either. People in opposition, there was no one in the room.
No, there wasn't.
No,
I don't think
I
so.
thought there was one.
that one was for the mine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The only one we've had so far is for the next gravel pit.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, that was at the same meeting. So, yep.
None of the 11, they've all called.
I'm not worried about, you know, legal risk for the county and that, or even really the town so much right now. And that because you guys are making a recommendation, but the county didn't fully approve it because it didn't go through the full county board. You know, was the chair a little bit late at 9 o'clock and then on the email when he sent it to me, but it was still, you know, submitted before the public hearing meeting, you know, so there was that. But anyway, so.
No, and like I said, I can live with it either way. I just wanted to make my point that I think it's bad precedent. I think the town had their chance. I think, you know, the fact that it was through the planning commission. I mean, it made it through 3 levels before there was a red flag. And
They didn't do their job. I would just tell them. I mean,
And if-
I think they did it. They looked at a map. They looked at a piece of paper. It looks good. I had to see what the house and look at it and they didn't see it until Jason put the thing. I mean, there was nobody said a thing until that.
And you know, in an email, and I thought it was maybe in your packet, but it wasn't. And that I explained to the town chair too. I'm like, I have a little bit of a legal concern for you guys, you know, to take and approve this because it was a full approval by the town board, went through the planning commission, and now you're going to deny it based off from a zoning violation, which isn't usually one of the criteria that you would take and have and that for a rezone, you know, because they should be looking at, you know, existing surrounding land uses and their comp plan and their infrastructure effects, you know, which doesn't have to do with zoning violations. So I told them that. I was a little bit concerned about where they would stand on that. But then it was after that they were still calling the supervisors before the county board meeting. So that they're fully aware of, you know, our stance on that. So
are they asking for it back, Jason, based on that?
Yeah.
Yep.
Based on the
violation and that was out there, and I think the public comments that they've received. So, but if the planning commission, like I said, I had a little concern and I expressed that with them, and that is if you went through your planning commission and they're looking at it with alignment with the comp plan, and you're looking at the other lots. Remember, we've got other lots in this area, 1.56, that are similar sized. You know, if you're looking at that and everything surrounding, I'm like, I don't know what you're going to base your denial on now. That's going to have weight, you know, but I think the Smiths are pretty, you know, easygoing people. And then, like I said, they might choose one of those other alternatives, you know, to get what they want. But effectively, then Dale will lose the ability to sell that 20 acres. So
They only have those options if we send it back to the town board, or do they have them now sitting right here?
they have them sitting right now. And then, so those were before and that, but Dale wanted to keep the 20 acres to sell. I believe it's kind of like a retirement plan or a rainy day fund, you know, and so that's why they were trying to rezone the 5 acres and just split that. And I believe he was going to give the 2.5 acres in the back to his kids to build a house on.
So they'll still have the same option, but I don't know how the town, like you said, can turn it down. They can stop it at the permit process.
The town could.
Building permit process, and not give a building permit.
That's tougher,
I mean,
but yeah.
because of the violations.
Right, right. Yep, that's
there, but for a rezone, I think it's pretty cut and dry that we can't really just slow you here.
Yeah.
There's really no conditions, I think we can do on it.
No, there's no conditions, right?
Yeah, I mean, we're kind of,
Up or down.
yeah.
So like the fact that they did have violations, it isn't, we shouldn't even be thinking about looking at that.
Right.
Then I say we just move forward with what we did. Don't send it back. Because it went through the plan commission, it went through the town board, it went through us. The violations shouldn't count in our decision.
That's our hard part on a rezone. It's
I'd
like all these rezones, we rezone, and everybody tells us what else they're doing, why we're, you know, that's all after the fact. We just, let's focus on,
yeah.
Does it fit?
Yeah.
Just like we just did, so it fits.
Then we made the right decision.
This actually does fit, so I mean.
Yeah, I mean, I think I understand they're taking probably a lot of heat from those 11, but there again, we seen those 11 and apparently come to a unanimous decision that nothing in those 11 was enough to say no.
Yeah.
Because there again, we can't say you have to do this, this, and this.
Yeah, there's no conditions.
There's no conditions.
Yeah.
So on January 24th, and this is in your packet, and this is from Carrie Bryan. Hello, Jason. Regarding the Smith rezone request, please have the ES committee pass the request back to the town of Apple River for reconsideration. Thank you for all your efforts in giving us a chance to review this topic at this time. You know, that doesn't tell me that they're pulling their approval. And that, but if he came out and said, you know, that the town board held a special meeting and we have since denied their rezone approval, then I believe that you guys have no option in that, but that would be dead. That would be at the town level. So it's just whether or not you want to consider this as a denial, because if the town denies, normally they can't even apply to the county. So, but we do have it in their minutes, and it is approved minutes, you know, that the town board did approve, I believe. And that at their September 12th board meeting is when they approved it.
They approved it when?
September 12th. And
the
then,
town board approved it September 12th.
Yeah, and then we didn't receive the rezone application until November 29th. So in other words, the Smiths, you know, had the approval, but they just didn't get the application in for another 2 months after that. And then we held the hearing on January 4th.
The plan commission, their town board plan commission would have seen it before that September meeting.
They did, yes. I can get into that if that's. Must have been the month before, and that, so it would have been August. That was that planning commission. It was Steve Reducer was there, and he was going to talk on the planning commission's discussion on the Smiths rezone.
The more I think about it, the more I agree with you and you too, saying that it went through the plan commission, went through the town board. I mean, if we, I know I'm agreeing with you too, but I agree with you sometimes.
Exactly when I get out the door.
Was there ice out in the
Because, but you think about it, how many other times then is this gonna happen? You know, it comes to us, we make a decision, and then a town board said, well, I want to make a different decision, let's call it back. I mean,
is there a way, Jason, that you can send it, if you decide to send it back to the town board, can you stipulate that they can't deny it at this point based on that?
Why sit back?
That's not our
It
problem.
does very good. Then we might as well pass it. But you can't tell the town what to do. We know that. You're on a town, you know that.
I know that.
Okay, so if we send it back and say, you can't deny it, they're gonna say here.
But I'm just saying, if it was something less, you know what I'm saying? If it wasn't just because of that compliance thing, whatever. I mean, if that's the reason they're pulling it back is based on that.
As what?
I mean, can you just, yeah, can you just say then?
but the town should be dealing with the fact that the mobile home is unpermitted. It's got a wood fire thing close to it. I remember seeing the picture.
Yeah.
But that's not our issue. That's
Right.
the town needs to deal with that, and they can't deny based on that, right?
Not the rezone. Go ahead.
Legally, that I believe that would be very undefensible, and that to use that for their grounds of their denial,
Yeah.
you know, especially once they've already approved it.
Yeah.
And that, so you guys know, and that, so I was on site the day before the 4th. So I was on site on the 3rd, and on the 5th, we wrote a compliance letter out to the Smiths, and that telling them to move out of that manufactured home. And when I talked to them last week, and that they had moved in with Dale in his house, so there's nobody living in the mobile home right now. So
that's good.
I just want to go back to what Justin said, and actually Jason, but you had a timeline you were working on with August and September. It seems like they've had plenty of time in between to come back to us, and not here in January.
Yeah.
Oh, I heard another rumor, you know.
Yeah.
Or something.
Well, we made a decision based off of the information that we could make that decision on.
Yeah.
So to send it back, you know, last time I agreed with Brad, I got blackballed. But anyway,
I wasn't here at that meeting, so I didn't.
That would be 3 of us agreeing with Brad.
but it does set a precedence.
It
that,
does.
You know, if somebody complains, then oh no, you know, and if we made it based off of what we could make that decision on.
the only thing that the committee would say is that Carrie's email is, you know, similar to a denial. That would be the only thing that the committee would, you know, and that it wasn't fully approved by the county board, you know. That's the only question.
So if the committee sends it back to the county board, it would force the hand of the town if they wanted to try to hold a special meeting before the next county board to reverse their decision before the county board acted. So they still would have the ability, perhaps, arguably, and I don't want to get into giving the town legal advice of what their authority would or would not be, but at least at that point, then you have, as the committee, given to the county board the ability to just go through the procedural steps it needs to, and if whatever actions the town decides to take or not take, that's on them. And you didn't engage in effectively sending it back. So any type of, let's say, detrimental reliance, right? Any argument that, hey, it passed the town, it passed the committee, we relied upon that. There's no plausible reason why the full county board would deny. So we, I don't know, engaged in doing certain things on the property, invested whatever, some type of a financial loss. it would take away any of those arguments. So that would be my recommendation from a liability standpoint. Again, I think Jason is right. There's not a lot of exposure there, but one way to make it absolutely clear that the county has no exposure is to send it back to the county board and let's see if the town does something immediately.
Because then, if I just so I understand you right, is that we send it back to the county board today, the town could post a special meeting for 5 days from now and send to the county board that we've changed our mind and denied it, or whatever it is.
Right, whether that denial would be legally defensible or not is not a question I'm going to answer because that's for
Right.
the town.
Right, no,
Yes.
no, but that's, I'm just,
Yes.
they have that ability.
Right.
And really, the town's almost got 2 months, so they can probably even hit it at their normal board meeting. You know, because because it won't be till March County Board.
Yeah, they can probably have two town board meetings.
But then they should go through.
Very good point.
And hold a town
That was a very
meeting
good
for
point.
these things,
So,
have a public hearing
that would-
before it comes to us.
Yep, that's a very good point, because that would stop it right there.
These towns
It's
do
another
this.
way. Yep.
I mean, every one of these, that it seems if it's anything contentious, well, the town didn't have a public hearing, we don't know what's going on. You know, we hear that so often. Yeah.
But then if when they
But-
don't
but-
follow that process,
It comes to us and we have to do it.
and we did it,
Yes, for them, yeah.
and we did it. So I
And so we
think,
did it, yeah.
I think we did the right thing.
I'll make a motion to send it back to the county board as is.
Second that.
And then there is a second. All those in favor then say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. How's that? All right.
Yes.
For the vote.
I'll follow up with Gary on it and let him know. I'll let him know his process that he can do if he wants, so, yep,
They can stop it at the permit. They just can't, don't give them a building permit.
yep,
I mean, they still have that option.
yes,
But that's what they want to do, you know, they clean it up.
because technically they have to meet all local prerequisite ordinances before the building permit can be issued. So, yep, that is required
Not like killing forever, just.
if they want, to, you know, that, because then they'll be following up on the enforcement,
They have to
so.
pull that trailer out of there and do the sewer freight and all that, yeah. And that's just normal, yeah.
Up to the friendly side of the room, see if I can get this side to agree with.
Right hand, you shouldn't be over there.
Ooh.
Hey Claire,
Hey, Brad.
can you please pull up the floodplain ordinance document?
Okay,
We're just moving on.
yeah.
It's over. It's over, you won. It's over.
Sorry,
No discussion.
I should maybe have a little more patience, huh, Doug?
Next.
Actually, I've used all my patience with the DNR on our floodplain ordinance. So.
What little you have left,
See,
right?
we did,
Yeah,
see what we did with this story.
yes, yep, that's all I had on the town of Sterling, so. Anyway, next one that we've got is the floodplain ordinance. You guys had seen the draft. We had sent it to the DNR back in November. I actually did get it back on January 4th, right after our meeting. We had provided an update on it. And I've been working with the DNR on it since. I've had it back to them now twice since then, and they've been much quicker on their response and their review. So the DNR produces a model ordinance, okay? And the model ordinance was last amended in March of 22. So we're very new on this, and that's something that most counties have not adopted yet. And there was a bill, Act 175, that was done in 2019. And basically what it does is it removes the 50% rule for ordinary maintenance and repair. That was a threshold. Like, so if you got a place that's worth $100,000 and it's in the floodway, and that right now, the way our ordinance is that you can only spend $50,000 on maintenance and repair to that building over the life of the structure. Well, anytime that 50% rule has been done through the state, whether it's shoreline zoning or our comprehensive zoning, and that the county has removed that. So to be consistent, and that's why I included that in the proposed draft. What it does is it allows you to go to that full 100% of the assessed value. And not that I don't think that many are going to do that, because they have to flood proof and go through all the steps then anyway, if they're going to go to 100% or anything over 50%. So that 50 to 100%, they have to bring their structure into compliance with the ordinance. Okay, so there's not a negative to it. But the 50% rule, as you can imagine, is very arbitrary, because if you're doing all the work yourself and you're just doing time and materials, you could buy $50,000 worth of materials versus a guy that's going to hire it done may only have 10,000 in materials and 40,000 in labor. So that's kind of where we suggested adopting it. So I'll just have Claire kind of scroll down through, and I'm not going to go through a lot. I'm just going to start with a few of these. And the DNR was very specific, and I'll call it nitpicky, if you will, to matching their language and their model ordinance with our county ordinance. So just up a little bit. And I think like the title, I think that's something that can be completely removed, but they're requiring us to put it in of that, hey, this is the floodplain zoning ordinance. We've got it up on the top where it says floodplain ordinance, you know, but again, they're that strict on their wording, you know, that here, you know, you can see that basically those wordings are the same thing. It's just not in their wording. So they wanted us to update it for the model. Go ahead and scroll down. Yeah, so they wanted us to add accessory structure cannot be used for human habitation, which we've got that underneath our other zoning classifications. They wanted us to add that a camping unit must be fully licensed if required and ready for highway use, just to match the model. You can keep on going down to the green. Okay. Lowest floor elevation. I think that our definition was actually better before, but it's not what the model ordinance has. And they just added restoring to original soundness. They wanted ordinary upkeep and repairs. Basically means the same thing. They wanted us to add municipality as it being defined in there. You will see that that has county in it. Municipality is not in our ordinance because the model ordinance, remember, and that is, you know, for any village, town, or county to adopt. And our ordinance, wherever it said municipality, we changed it out and said the county, you know, or, you know.
Go back, Jason, to that, because that doesn't have town in it.
Yeah, it didn't, did it? Can you go up a little bit, Claire? Oh.
It just says county, city, and village. It doesn't even have town in it.
I'll ask them if I can change it.
Well, you know,
we're taking yours away.
You have no power yet. Yeah, geez. I don't like that, do you, Jay?
I'll ask them if I can change that. So I would assume we can, but that's coming copy and pasted right out of the model ordinance. So you can keep on going down. Basically, new construction is the same. We just had an extra sentence there. They wanted to add non-flood disaster. I think that's a good thing. And that because maybe it's a fire on a building located in the floodplain. I do like that. Adding what a person is. And I really don't know what the impact of that is on the ordinance. Copy and pasted, so you can keep on going down. Okay, so the official map section here is big. We had FIS in there before. That's just a little bit of a change in how it's worded. But B here, in the past, we've always had an appendix that had all of our dam failure analysis, all of our H&H hydrologic and hydraulic studies in it, all of our regional elevations that have been approved by the DNR over the year. We had them in the appendix, And since we've ever had a floodplain ordinance, because then we could amend it very easily without reopening public hearings and everything, because it's approved by the DNR. We really don't have anything to say about it. We just have to adopt it into the ordinance. And so I think we're kind of new on this, but they're making us put each one of those studies into organized by the dam, and that what the map is actually titled, what the date is, what the flood data table is called, what the date of that is, and what the flood profile is. So the dam shadow, so for every one of these dams, I'm just going to call it the Amory Dam there. Basically, the dam in Amory, they're going to be a floodplain map that's going downstream. So if the dam fails, and that this is the area that's going to be flooded. Okay, so that's what A is there, the inundated downstream areas of the hydraulic shadow map. Then the floodway data tables, those are elevations and of the flood profile as it's going, because we all think that maybe a river or a lake is flat, but they are slowly stepping down. And then the flood profile, and that is basically taking that data table and creating a line chart of it, showing the elevation change. So I went through and dug through all of our old paperwork, found all this information because we didn't have that in there before. So now we can kind of go down through, Claire. There are other studies like this, like the Straight River one. But because that was a brand new dam that Scott Geddes just did 5 years ago or so, there was a study on the old dam. That one's not in here. This is only for the current dams that we have in operation in the county right now. So.
Is the Blackbrook Dam on there?
Blackbrook Dam is not on there, but that one goes back. I looked up that one. It's in 1917 was when that dam was built. And so because it's been there so long, it was part of the original FEMA maps, and that for when it was mapped, so that those hydraulic shadows and everything are already incorporated in our FEMA map. So
let's just back up. I just got to ask this question. I thought you said that Straight River Dam was Scott Geddes.
Scott Geddes designed it, and I believe the town of Bone Lake put it in. So
never installed it.
Oh, okay.
Extensive.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, but yeah, he designed it, I know, yeah, okay. So, but the old one was removed, so.
Yeah, the old one was just a wood log structure.
Yep, logs. I think I go up a little bit, Claire. So, yep, a little bit more. So we had 12 dam failure analysis within the county, and then down a little bit. And then we go into RFEs. So these are all the regional flood elevations and that throughout the county that we've had that have been approved by the DNR. So various lakes. I wanted to have this in there just in case something happened to the paper copy of the document over here. That is something new. I worked with the DNR on Friday actually and created that format. So it's all based on mean sea level or the NGVD. So it's all GPS, except for a couple of them that are really old that go off from an old DNR benchmark, and that's been labeled. So there's some of those, especially on like Cedar Lake. There's maybe a square rock that's been etched, in that as a benchmark, or there's maybe a survey monument. So that's what they've used. So. Okay. Yeah. Well, there's a whole bunch of them. And then in our paper documents, if you wanted to see what benchmark 514A is, there's a whole sheet describing where that benchmark is, what it is, what that elevation is tied to over time. So, but at least we have the main elevations covered. So, all right, Claire, now we can just kind of scroll down.
Number 8 isn't, yeah, they have some that are 100 and stuff. So those aren't the real elevation.
Those are not real elevations.
No,
so
that's where I said the one with the railroad spike, yeah.
But I mean, if it was ever a priority, somebody like Steve could go out there and definitely put a mean sea level elevation on that. So, any surveyor would be able to use that information, in other words. Okay. Yeah, so I mean, there's just a lot of changes, you know, here and that the flood hazard area is regulated by this ordinance divided into the districts. That's what they wanted. No context. I don't know how much more you want me to go through. There's quite a few changes going down through the ordinance. Really, I got kind of tired of, you know, changing and inserting little words where they were different. So I ended up just crossing it out, copying the model ordinance and just inserting it just to save my time. So.
So if you just copied the model ordinance, then they're happy. Otherwise, they're not.
Well, the problem is yeah, right. Yep. And that.
3-page deal she sent you before.
Yeah, there was a checklist and that was 3 pages and that we had to go through. And so there was various sections and, you know, I kind of expected a little bit more thorough of a review because there were several sections in that, especially like the administration sections, which were right in the draft that I sent over. And she said, I couldn't find, please identify the section. So then all I did is write on the checklist, this is the section, you know, that we provided to them. So, but it really looks like it's a lot more than what it is. I mean, here, well, hold up, we'll back up. Right here. So, I mean, like right here, their model ordinance says that there are ravine areas that may be covered from flood water that during the regional flood. And that are those areas that may be covered by flood water during the regional flood. You can see the wording is very similar and that the main change is those ravine areas, you know. So it looks like it's a lot more than what it is. And that we've even got, you know, the same AH and AOs. It's just, it wasn't worth going through and picking each word, you know, so why don't we just scroll down through it, Claire, kind of slowly.
44.
It's 44.
Everything in red was what was changed beforehand. So it's only the green.
It just says 12 of 44, 13 of 44.
Compliance is one section that we didn't have a lot on before. And of course, the model ordinance cites the sections which were within the model ordinance. So then I had to go back and change all of our sections so that it, you know, was linked up to the correct section. You know, so but right now it is approvable by the DNR. So we are able to move forward with it. And then we'll get our letter certifying our ordinance after full county board adoption, which we're trying to still shoot for that March date. So
this can go to the public here.
Yep. So it's all ready to go.
That public, we're having the floodplain, what else?
And that, so we're going to have the shoreland, the comprehensive, and that the floodplain and the POUDs and the renewable energy. Those are it. So, yep.
And that'll be when?
February 15th. So, yep. And that is being published in the newspaper today. We sent it to the news yesterday. Okay. So yeah, we're pushing it out to lake districts and stuff like that too. So, yep. And the proposed drafts, now that I've got it done, and that will be online today. I'm going to send Claire an email for the proposed text to be out there. And then I will also.
Where online will we find it?
And be a good question for Claire. Yeah. Yeah. And that, but for you guys, in that I also have to provide you with a copy of all the proposed ordinances. So I will be sending out email today and that to all of you guys with all the proposed ordinances and a copy of the petition that I filed with Shabana last week.
Okay.
And so that you have all the drafts and that, so you have time to review them. So I hope to get both of them out today.
Because I want to be able to share with the town too, because
the renewable energy one is something that, you know, there's been a lot of talk on. And I think there's going to continue to be a lot of talk on. And I just can't believe that there wouldn't be some legislative changes coming down the pipe, you know, and that. So that might be, it might be a short-lived or a live document, you know, for a while here, just because Polk County, we've only had the one, you know, on that, but there's several counties in that have been seeing large proposals being done in their counties. So, yep.
So the one you send us won't, a clean one, won't you?
I'll send you a complete red line. Or do you want one that's clean? Because you won't be able to see the changes in that.
Can't make it pink.
You know, the renewable one I'll send as a clean one and that because, I mean, really, we're not using much of that small wind at all. And that we're going completely new. So, you know,
Okay.
so I've got that in a clean format. This one here, I'll make sure everything is red, you know, so I just wanted to show you what the DNR was saying. So, yep.
Yeah. Always. Okay.
If it was me, I definitely wouldn't change what they are requiring us to change because the context and the applicability of it is the same, you know, but and like I said, I got kind of a little bit more lazy and that just because I didn't want to add in a word here and there because then it gets really messy as far as being able to review. So I'm like, it might be easier just to read if you just cross it all out and then add it, the new piece completely in one sentence. So, yeah.
You weren't lazy, you were just efficient.
Yeah, well, I made the joke in that. So going through all these old floodplain studies and H&H analysis and that, I heated my house on Friday, just burning all the duplicates. So anyway, I literally had an armful like this that I carried into my house on Thursday night. So we had 10 copies of some of it. So
Makes it good for that lot. You know, I had to do. Does the lot stake that I did for this lot? It doesn't count for this lot. Didn't even make sense. It didn't make sense. We do them out of their flood insurance. They have to do their own.
So that's where that new mapping that we're supposed to be getting, you know, it'll probably be 2026 before it's done. I think they were taking and telling us it was going to be 2024, 2025 before they got all the new maps and the studies done. And that which they'll be able to use that new LiDAR data and that for. So we're really perfect timing. Some of our other counties that jumped on that LiDAR too late and that missed when FEMA redid their maps. So their maps are still done on 2-foot or 5-foot contours. And so it's actually a good thing that they kind of waited a little bit with Polk County because now we're going to have that new LiDAR data before they really get into all their mapping. But yeah, this stuff is so highly regulated and that it's between the DNR and FEMA, Polk County and that going through all the old documents and that did lose their floodplain certification. And that back in 1990, there was all kinds of letters going back and forth between Spinell and them. And believe it or not, in 94, and that we almost lost it again because we didn't amend. And that because they were talking about codifying the county's ordinances back in 1994. So that was almost 30 years ago that was the start of the codification process and that which Tim Anderson just finished a couple of years ago. So tells you that it takes a little while in county government. So anyway,
but how much floodplain do we have in the county?
We don't have a lot. So we've got more right now because we've got inaccurate maps. And it was kind of funny in that there was correspondence in 94 why we almost are in 1990 why we almost lost it is because this is one of the biggest areas in that I know of in the county too, down on Bear Trap Lake, right in the bay there, and that the hill is over 20 feet tall. And all of them houses kind of on the Manitou Point area there. So it'd be the southeast corner of that bay. And those are all in the floodplain. They're sitting over 20 feet above the water. And Gary was arguing with them, how can you take and, say that this is floodplain when it's that high? And he was actually had a community evaluation where they actually came out and he took them out there and showed them from what I gathered from reading all these letters. And it was still no, that this is the way it is. So
They took the 1,000 feet a year before prove it out.
Yeah.
Classical did the 2 So if you look at 1,000 feet of a lake, 300 feet of a stream, you have to get flood insurance.
Now, one of the things in that has been brought up and that as part of this amendment process too is what they call a CRS community. And you can apply to be a CRS community if you have an updated ordinance and have updated maps, and you go through a bunch of these things that then you can take and save your local flood taxpayer or flood insurance payers up to 5 or 10% off from their flood insurance premiums. There's no cost in that for the county to do this. It is a 2-year process is what they told us. There is some issues, and I looked at all the communities. There's a handful of counties in the state is all that have done it. And I think a lot of counties don't do it because there's requirements for like removing structures within the floodway and getting them out of there. So there's quite a few ties that way. So it also makes our ordinance much more restrictive because right now a dwelling, the lowest floor has to be 2 feet above the regional flood elevation. And to be a CRS community, you got to be at 3 foot above the regional flood elevation. And then all the accessory buildings also have to be elevated, higher too. So it's not required. We've never done it. I don't know if you have any interest in doing it. But there is quite a few steps, but we would qualify for 5 to 10% probably for the floodplain taxpayers.
If you flood proof the house. Yeah, 3 feet.
Yeah. And I mean, definitely the new mapping is probably a better bang for your buck, and that is to take and have, that or try to get that updated faster, but I don't know.
Is that this year yet, isn't it?
Well, that's going to be, yeah.
I mean, for us.
Yeah, and that, but before FEMA updates their maps would be 2024, 2025, but we have no control over that. But I mean, what I'm saying is that's going to pull more people out of the floodplain, that to save them that money versus doing the CRS stuff. But it is something that they offered. But like I said, there's only a handful of counties in the state that have done it, and probably 15 cities and villages that have done it. So.
Well,
there's a great many in the whole county.
What's your recommendation on that? Is it something you wanted to do? Is that why you're bringing it up?
No, I'm just, all I'm doing is bringing it up for you guys to consider. Yeah, I really don't think it's that relevant for the county. So I think there'd be more of a hassle than what it's worth probably as far as staff time goes. So it's a lot of fill too, so then you're offsetting, and yeah.
All right.
My recommendation would be to leave it as is. So yeah, that's not because I don't want to do the work. It's just, I don't think there's going to be that much benefit.
No, I mean, then we have to just look at
well, and what I'd be afraid of is, like I said, trying to mitigate some of those non-conforming structures. If we did have something in the floodway where we'd have to, buy or make somebody tear down a building, and that could be a big reversal on it, I mean, so for any benefit that you'd gain, you might lose.
Okay. Any other questions on the flood issue?
Really, we don't even use the floodplain ordinance that often, but we do have to have an updated one. So.
All right.
Annual report. All right. Well, I'm just going to point out some of the big highlights or the key highlights. In 2022, Kara Cook obtained her pulse inspector license. So she got that, and Logan Hacker got his certified soil tester credential. So now as far as CSTs or soil testers in our office, it's myself and Logan. And then Kara, Logan, and myself are the pulse inspectors. And also Karsten Peterson, who that with Land and Water, is also a pulse inspector. So the county's in really good shape as far as having credentialed staff. And that definitely helps, when we try to do things like having that pulse agent status to be able to review mounds and stuff, because that's what they're looking at. to make sure that we've got adequate staffing to do that. So we were down 11.7% on sanitary systems last year. So that was roughly around 40 to 50 of them. Right now, Polk County's got 17,155 private sewer systems in the county. So that just keeps on going up every year with our new housing development. We didn't have quite as many maintenance reports, but those are still coming in. With the implementation of next generation 911, 2022 was a really big year on addresses. With the cooperation of several of our towns, we ordered 2,354 addresses, and we changed 655 addresses in 2022. The towns that jumped on with the new NG 911 system and that were the towns of West Sweden, Beaver, Lincoln, and Blackbrook. So those ones all jumped on. So
paid for all the signs and the installation.
And that, so the towns were paying for the installation, and the towns were using ARPA funds and that to cover and that the signs. And so the county, all we did, and then we've had a long-term agreement with doing this, is if there's an address that needs to be changed in order to comply with NG 911. And basically we're removing the A characters, you know, and that off from it. Those ones in that the county buys the signs, because eventually we're going to get forced as a county and that to update all those signs anyway. And if we're going to go ahead and do it as a county without the cooperation of the county is going to be on the hook for the cost of the sign and the installation. So we're going to take and pay, you know, $50 to install the sign plus the cost of the sign, versus right now, what we've been working out with these towns is we're buying those signs and the towns are putting them up. And because the town was going to go through and buy all new signs anyway and install them, so why not make the correct signs go up right now? And it saves the towns a little bit of money as well. So it's been a good partnership. But then we basically take everything, we go out, we site visit all the signs and that, so that we don't order new signs where we already have a new sign up, you know, on that, or the new style sign, so that we're not buying signs that we don't have to. That's part of our partnership with them. And then also we take care of everything administratively as far as, you know, and that ordering and billing and everything. And we just directly relay on our cost and that to the town. There's no in-house fees or anything. So
how many towns either have or haven't signed on?
There's more that have than haven't in that. So Clam Falls has done it. Bone Lake has done it. Lorraine has done it. Clear Lake and Clayton have done it. So a lot of them. So, yeah. And a bulk of those is where all of our lakes are, where we ran into a lot of these A's and B's and stuff too. So
those ones you just mentioned, they're all done?
They're all done.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. You know, so I do hope to get a memo out to the other towns that haven't done it, you know, to try to take and inform them about the program again and stuff, and try to get, you know, some more of them done in 2023. But it's a huge thing.
Yeah.
So, and with that, we did complete right at the end of the year. We assigned addresses for all the public parking areas, including DNR parking areas. We got approval from the DNR to do that. We assigned all of the county corridor trails, including the Ice Age Trail, an address for at every intersection where they cross with a public road. So we did that. We assigned addresses to all the boat landings in the county, and we assigned addresses to all the cemeteries in the county. And then there were a few other properties that were parks and community places and that didn't have addresses, and it was really creating some inefficiencies for Brad, our GIS coordinator, and Paula. And they were actually creating dummy addresses and that to submit it with Paula's stuff to the tax and that, or to the state. And then Brad was having to go in and delete out those every year. So there's about 75 of them that we did as well. And that to kind of clean that up so they don't have to do that every year. So otherwise you got to go into 75 properties, add the address in, go in 75 properties, delete it out. So now we actually assign those so that they're done. I think they're down to like 5 or 10 that we couldn't assign an address to because they're landlocked parcel or something like that. So
they've actually got an address sign out there identifying.
So the public parking like at a hunting place or something.
Right, and that, so the whole goal in that is, of course, NG 911 can accept text messages now. It can accept videos. It can accept all kinds of multimedia messages, you know, and that versus the old one was not able to accept that kind of stuff. The old system was an analog system. The new system's a digital system. And it's all fine and dandy. I just told you that we can locate cell phones now too as part of NG 911. So if you're up in the rice beds on County Road G, there's 5, 6 DNR pull-offs on the south side of the road. And so if you got a bow hunter or whatever that's went up in a tree and falls out of a tree and calls 911, 911 will be able to trace that phone call to where he is. And that, but now by having an address sign attached to each one of those parking areas, and that dispatch can tell the responders, well, it's closest if you go to this address, you know, because who knows where they went after that. So they'll be at least go to the right parking area. And then from there, they can give guidance and that to get to that location. Same thing in that with campgrounds. And that, in fact, I just emailed Brad today on a campground. We got a new updated map and that with new site numbers. And so those maps are uploaded then in the PSAP equipment over there. So if they get a call from DNN campground on lot 50 in DNN, dispatch can tell anybody that's responding, okay, you're pulling in DNN, you got to go to the second driveway to the right, and then it's a 4th camper on the right or the 5th left, you know, so that they can give them direction. Because otherwise you're driving in these places, you have no idea, you know, and we can't really assign physical addresses to every site. They can do unit numbers like unit 50 and have those posted if the campground wanted to, but at least dispatch will be able to take and refer that information. So, and we're doing the same thing with apartment buildings too. Basically anything that you can think of, and maybe it's just, someone might say it's an invasion of privacy, but I was on probably 15 sites last week for this on Thursday, and everybody's totally receptive and that they want to know. And so it's like, if you got an apartment complex, you got unit 1 in the bottom and unit 2 on top, you know, Brad can put notes into his system for dispatch and that, you know, unit 1's in the main floor, unit 2 is up top, you know, or what side of the building, where they're at, where they access their units from, you know, so most of it won't be a problem. If there's a fire, it's just all EMS. So then, yeah, so then land use permits, we finished up the year down 1.7%. That sounds like a lot, but it's only about 20 permits. Good thing in that, as part of that, new homes stayed very consistent. I think we had 158 last year. It's 160 this year. That we've done. Commercial buildings, that's kind of a little misleading number because I mean it's only one building that it went up is all. So but a huge number, and that is the 72 subdivision reviews that we did in 2022. That's up 38.5% from last year. That's about as high as I've ever seen it. And then my time here at the county, that's more back into like 2019, 2020 numbers. Last year we were at 52. So there was 20 more, or, you know, almost 40% more subdivisions in 2022 compared to 2021. So that's a good number. So that means that there was a lot of splits and stuff happening. We've worked on over 100 complaints in 2022. 167 enforcement actions. That's, you know, writing a letter, site visit, you name it, that kind of activity. And 77 of those properties were brought into compliance. So. Any questions on that? The charts and everything just kind of show you our data. And that kind of how the months split out and how the permits split out, what kind of sanitary permits we're seeing. There's really no alarming trends there. Our mounds and our holding tank numbers are relatively consistent year over year. I guess the biggest thing is if you drew a line back in time, and that we all know what happened in 2008, you know, we're at about 2007 as far as permit numbers. So not anywhere near the peak of early 2000 to 2005, but very similar to 2007. Yeah, last, we'd just like to thank the BOA for all their work, and your guys for all your work with all the ordinance amendments and public hearings and conditional use. And so it's been good. So
what is Jacob still going for his stuff too?
And then Jacob right now, and that doesn't have the requirement to take and obtain his post inspector or anything. And that we need to talk to him a little bit about where he wants to go with his professional development, but maybe look at trying to get a different certification, you know, in our office, and that might benefit maybe a wetland delineator, or maybe it's going to be a building code side of it. So, you know, we're pretty solid on post inspectors right now with the 4 of us in the whole county. So, yep.
Okay.
That's all I've got.
So next meeting is looking at my home.
Yeah.
It is. It is. Really extensive work to be done in the public hearing with the POTS, renewable energy, floodplain.
So we get a break because that is supposed to go. It could go long and it could not.
Yeah.
Pack a lunch, Kim. Pack a lunch.
But
Pack a lunch.
yeah.
Order pizza.
I think we had a rezone as well in the town of Osceola from RA5 to R1 for the 15th as well. So along with all the amendments. Okay, do that one first.
I would think, yeah.
We actually had another one penciled in
That's the 15th.
in the town of Johnstown, CUP. But rumor has it that might be pulled.
Might be pulled.
We just learned that this morning.
That one could be contentious.
That one could be contentious, but that is been noticed. So, so there's those two with the CUP to operate a transient lodge pipeline, which may or may not happen. And then the rezone from RA5 to R1 in town of Osceola. And then like Jason mentioned, the public hearing for all these ordinance amendments with POTS, renewable energy, floodplain, shoreland, comprehensive rather. So it's pretty extensive, which reminds me, during the meeting, I walked out with Mo and we're rethinking SEH's presentation. Again, like I mentioned in their scope, they were to deliver one formal presentation. We thought it'd be best at the county board. What do you think if we have them come here, the consultants come here to this committee? This would provide you all an opportunity to vet. And then Mo and I could deliver at the county board. I think we'll get more qualitative input, you know, at using that process. So if we did that, we could push the SEH to March 1st. And then February 15th would be plumb full of just public hearing.
Yeah.
That sounds good.
That sound good? And then the land and water annual report. Unless you want me to punt that to March 1st as well.
Yeah, let's do that. So we can, let's
do land and water to March 1st.
Because with all those public hearings that could drag out a bit.
It could, and it could be over with in a hurry.
It could be like a budget.
Yeah, we can have all these public hearings and we may get no one.
Yeah.
You know.
An update on the Blue Rock Forest.
Yeah. So do that in whenever you.
Will we know though by the 15th, or should that?
you'll have an update.
Well, we argued on it. We may have a decision by then, which is why I want.
By the 15th or by the 1st?
Either, I would put it on both.
Both?
Put it on the 15th, and
Okay.
we don't need to put it on the 1st.
Should we put them both on there, huh? Should we put the 7 Heights too? Sure. Okay, put them both on the 15th.
Okay. So then, if I'm hearing you correctly, it'll be predominantly the public hearing and a closed session for an update on the Blue Rock Quarry.
May.
Okay.
And then what we're moving to March 1st would be a formal presentation of the ATV UTV intensive park by our consultants, as well as the Land and Water annual report.
And that do we need updates?
On the comprehensive trail network plan,
I mean, we could leave it there and not have any, if nothing else.
I'll have, yeah, I'll have an update for you. In the spirit of transparency.
And the forester's good till March.
Yep. Okay. So we'll leave 6 on. 8 will be the majority of work. 9, I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong agenda, guys. Sorry. I was looking at the 15th draft agenda. Sorry.
The 6th will be off there now.
All right, we'll leave.
You'll go to March.
Yep.
We'll leave 5, 7, that'll be just about everything else.
Yep. And then
listed out, and then Blue Rock on the end.
Yep.
And 7 Heights on the end. Possible goals.
So the Land and Water that we moved to March 1st, Bob,
yes, sir.
I mean, would we have time for that? Because our public hearing isn't going to start till 9:30. So on the 15th,
Oh, we could put that
what are we putting in that half an hour that we've got? You know, I mean,
Public comment.
Good question.
Land Waters.
Just saying.
We can, well, I think
if we, there again, put them on and we can always scratch them if
something happens.
Time is tight.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking at that half an hour time frame of,
To fill it up with this.
you know, if it's going to be all public hearings really, and they start at 9:30, what are we doing from 9 to 9:30?
Well, we'll do the updates. Yeah, and that maybe put that on there.
Because we did have time for timber sales before.
Yeah. Maybe put, can they do theirs, your updates in theirs in half an hour?
I don't know. I know Eric's not going to be at the February 15th, so I would deliver it, and I would probably be short and sweet.
We should do it.
We've got an office.
Right, I will do it. So yeah, that makes sense then. So I'll do an update. And water, public hearing.
Not push out.
Sure.
Because you didn't milk anymore. So you're starting to make sense.
Just a little more sleep.
Yeah, too much sleep.
I don't know. Well, I had to step out during the town of Sterling formal adoption of county zoning authority. I just want to fill you in. I'm going to go visit them on February 20th. We're on their agenda to talk about their comp plans because they'll need a comprehensive plan. We have some resources that can help them. So we have been talking to them in the last year and a half. It's a real challenge for them to form a planning committee. So I'm going to talk that through with Chairman Wilson. Also, we want to talk about the impact of the ATV UTV park because it is adjacent to a town lot and their thoughts on access from the 6 mile loop into the park as well as fencing on there and so forth. And then we want to introduce Brent Cisco, new forester. Mark used to bring their severance check to them, and I thought that was always a good practice. But we already cut that check for them, but So this would be a good opportunity for them to meet Brent as well. So I just wanted to share that with you and our support for them in adopting county zoning authority. No. No, we haven't reached out to the town. They haven't reached out.
When in March wasn't SRF coming back to talk about plan again in March? Was it the first or second meeting or aren't they? Or
no, we still have to, like I mentioned before, reach out to each of the municipalities. Now we have this new meeting to attend as well. It was April. Yeah, just by memory, it was like April. And then we're hoping May or June county board presentation. So yeah, thinking in my mind's eye, if I look at the schedule, it's like April or yeah, late April, yep. Maybe. Yeah. I want to jump on the brand and make it here, right?
Did he agree with you too?
I think we're down to 2 holdouts. Let's keep going. We'll wear them down.
Brad, you're gonna have to go out the double door so you can get out today.
All right. I just have a question for Maria. If I can even ask it. So when you did the Blue Rock, you go in there and we're named as the committee is. How come no committee members are there?
You could ask it, Kim.
You didn't get the invite.
I didn't get it. I don't know.
The memo.
Would it make sense if any of us did show up?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was just oral argument, so it wasn't, there was.
But I mean, but you're still in front of the judge. I mean,
yeah.
Some of the committee members have been there.
Yeah.
Do you think you would have asked us questions or not?
No.
Probably not, because it was pretty
They
tight.
definitely would not have asked questions, but.
But for intimidating, yeah, should we have shown?
Yeah, we're being recorded.
Kim, you cannot ask that question.
Okay, I can't ask that one.
I guess what you're saying is.
I mean, well, I'm getting sued, so I should have been there, is what I'm saying.
Well,
That
you luckily have not been sued in your individual capacity.
No, but as a committee, I mean, as a committee, we're being sued.
Yeah.
We should be standing there being
If it was evident.
long-faced man in the world, because why are you suing me?
Yeah, and I guess in the future, if we have more hearings or something, I can certainly give you notice.
Of when they are.
Of when they are.
Okay, that's what I.
We would have to
Did you
then.
notice she was looking at Kim when she said,
Well, and then we would have
Because my name
to,
might be on there.
we would have to post a potential forum,
Sure.
you know,
Yeah.
so we could certainly do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Get the county computer, it'll be right there for you all the time.
In the paper, word for word, quote.
Then the other question I'll ask, yeah. So, go on.
Is that it?
Number 9.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
oh,
I don't know.
just
Truth is stranger than fiction.